What piqued your interest in creativity, like in the arts?
But it's like we get so like passionate about it's like it has to be this way, and it's like just because this is your opinion doesn't mean someone else can't bring something that maybe it'll make it better, you know?
All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Storyboard podcast. We're back.
We back like we never left.
How'd the first one feel?
Great. It was actually really smooth.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting. We've never done just a podcast on our own without a host, like from a friend or something.
Yeah.
And it went really smooth.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I was like wanting to all day.
I could do this all day.
Yeah. So we just got out of the Brutalist today. We went and saw it in IMAX and in all of its glory. What do you think?
I loved it. I didn't know what to expect. I like to go into movies with no expectations when I can. And I think I only saw the trailer once. And I mean, the trailer doesn't really
the trailer,
tell you anything.
It was pretty vague. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was like a period piece based on like an immigrant story, but I didn't really know. They didn't really give you a lot of the story. So
yeah, I love that. I love going into a movie like super open-minded to what the plot is about.
Yeah.
I loved it. It kept my attention, even though it was 4 hours. Well, it was like including the trailers and the intermission. It was like 4 hours long.
Yeah, we went to the 3:15 showing. I think we got it at 7:30. It was a long movie. Long sit. But
and someone did not bring a hoodie and froze to death the whole time.
It was freezing in there. I was so cold. But it didn't feel like it was almost 4 hours long. It felt like...
Well, it kept our attention the whole time.
Yeah.
The intermission was nice just to get up and walk around because since we saw it in IMAX, our theater doesn't have the reclining seats. Yeah. But we got coffee during the intermission to warm up.
Yeah.
And that
surprisingly,
was really nice.
AMC has coffee.
It wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't bad at all.
Also, this is real time us actually talking about it. So after we go to the movies like at least 2-3 times a week. And after we go to the movies, we always walk out of the theater, and for the next 30 minutes to an hour, we talk about the movie. And this time, Jay was like, we can't talk about it until we're recording on the podcast so that we have like our first reactions to it on camera.
I'll just read the AI overview on Google. All right, so The Brutalist is about a Hungarian Jewish architect who escapes Europe after World War II to rebuild his life in the United States. The film explores the American dream, the cost of power and legacy, and the brutality that can be masked by success. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. It was a very fresh, unconventional style of film.
Yeah, so like the thing that stuck out to me the most was, number one, it was shot in VistaVision and in IMAX, so it was the frame was huge. Every single shot looked like a photograph. It was awesomely composed. It like every scene you could pause it and frame that image.
Well, it felt like, I mean, beautiful composition, but it felt that way too just because of how it was shot. Like a lot of stagnant, locked off shots that were, and it felt, and maybe it's because of the IMAX screen, but it felt like very intimate. Like the shots felt like, oh, this was shot at, an 85 millimeter prime lens that it was like it wasn't like a POV, like you're experiencing it from the outside. You felt like you were in it, And I think even the dialogue scenes, it was like, you felt like you were a part of the conversation, almost a little uncomfortable, like you're like in the conversations.
I think that's why it felt like it went by so smoothly, and like you weren't aware of the time, was because the main character Laszlo, every single line that he said,
you're just like on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, you're just waiting.
Not that it was suspenseful or anything.
No, but just you're so engaged with how like the conversation's going to play out that it just keeps you wondering, like what's going to happen, but you're like, how is he going to respond to this?
That actor, Adrian, is that his name?
Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was incredible. I mean, like his performance in that character was amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think right now it's up to 10 Oscar nominations.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I can definitely see why.
Also, just story-wise, I mean, I don't know, coming from an immigrant family it's not the same, obviously. Like, everyone has their own unique story. But it felt very, like, you just feel for them, you know? Like, you feel for, there's these small moments, and sometimes it's, like, in subtext of them feeling like outsiders or, like, they don't belong. So I loved that aspect of it. There was one specific frame, like literally like a still, that I wish I could, like, export and print because it was when they go to the quarry, like with the marble in Italy.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was kind of like they were setting the scene for a location change. So it was kind of these like still locked off shots, maybe like 5 or 6 in a row where there's not a lot of movement, but it was like this one architectural, like beautiful scene with like a blue sky and like a harsh, like 45-degree angle with like the marble.
Yeah.
It was like, I was like, oh, I want to print that. It was a beautiful.
The scene where the rich guy, he takes all of them on that hill.
Oh, where they're silhouetted.
Yeah, and they're all like walking up. It's just this
that was huge.
It took up the whole screen.
Yeah.
This huge shot, and you can see the people walking up.
Yeah.
it
And
looks
somehow
so good.
You know who they are as silhouettes, which is like
Yeah, you can see their
crazy. Like also just, I mean, I feel like there's meaning there too in the order. It's like who's leading the story. It's like you have the rich guys in the front, and then you've got Lasso it like second, and then his 2 kids like following after, and you know that's who they are just from their silhouettes. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It was very, like you said, different than but that's A24. Like that's the thing I love about A24 and Neon.
It feels fresh.
Yeah, they're
even like afterwards I was like, look, it's got Dutch angle credits. Like the credits roll from like the bottom left to the top right of the screen.
And it mimicked the
architecture.
style of architecture, that brutalism, which I learned about because of this film. I've heard of the term brutalism, but I didn't know exactly what it was. But even the credits, it mimicked that that same style. But I was thinking a lot about Abby and Abuelo, your grandparents, during that, because I don't know, I feel like that whole time I was like, I really need to see if I can figure out a way to make their story into a film. Yeah. Because the stuff that they went through.
That's kind of like I said, obviously it's a different culture and different experiences for sure. But with my grandparents and dad, like, and uncle coming to America to get out of a bad situation, I feel it's like there's so much respect that I have for what they had to endure, but it's like with this one sole purpose of escaping something bad to get to something better, you know? And I think that's like, everyone wants that, you know? And just the reality of the fact that like, if you look different or you sound different, you're not always welcomed. But there are some amazing people along the way that give them a chance, a shot. Yeah. To build a better life, you know?
Yeah. But all in all, it was a great movie. Yeah. Cons that I had with the movie, like downsides. Maybe it's typical. The ending was satisfying. It's just not how I thought it would have ended. And I do feel like you could have taken some out of the time, out of the 3 hours and 45 minutes. I feel like you could have cut some of it out. But the story is so detailed. Like, you literally go from the moment that he gets here to America to, like, the whole story of him building that whole building.
Yeah.
It's very detailed.
I kind of liked how long it was. There are other movies that I'm like, okay, like, they just drug this out longer than it needed to be. I honestly, I felt like that I mean, probably going to get like some backlash for this, but Oppenheimer felt like, in my opinion, I was like, that's too long. Like, it was beautiful.
You're right. Yeah.
But I think obviously there's some, you know, film critics out there who'd be like, what are you saying? But in this case, like in this movie, I felt like the length was like, okay, you're committing to this story and you're almost like in it, you know, you feel like you're kind of living through all of these hardships with him. Yeah. And that can't really, that's true. You have to like commit to it, you know, you can't, that's not something that you can just lightheartedly watch.
I enjoyed the intermission.
Yeah. That was, honestly, it's the first movie in a theater I think I've ever seen with an intermission that's actually like, it was 15 minutes that you actually have time to leave, go to the restroom. We got coffee. Yeah. I mean, I think that it was nice that we were checking out at the register, and there was a guy checking out next to us, and he was like, "Are y'all in the Brutalist?" And we were like, "Yeah." And even that, it felt kind of like, oh, we're a little family, and we're all like experiencing this together.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
I like that. I think I didn't see it in theaters, but the Grindhouse movies, Death Proof and Planet Terror, that Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino did, it was a double feature, so they played one first, and then they had fake trailers, and then played the second. So I think that one had an intermission, but I wish I would have seen that one in theaters.
It does remind me of like whenever you're
it's like theater
in high school and you would like just movie hop. I mean, I'm not saying that this is okay, but you would like sneak into another movie after your movie.
Overall, I'd give it out of... We'll do 5 or 10 stars. What do you want to do out of 5 or 10?
Okay. Someone asked us earlier, what do you rate it? Ozzy was like, what do you rate it? And I was like, I feel like you can't rate it compared to other movies. Like, how can you rate it if it's like in its own...
Just of how much you enjoyed it. I would give
it's like apples to oranges, though. It's so hard because it's like... It really is in its own category. I mean, it was incredible, but I'm like, how can you compare that to like Transformers?
Oh, yeah, you don't. But I mean,
Transformers is fun, but like this is like you enjoy it in a different way.
Yeah, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars because a perfect 5 is like near impossible.
Yeah, but
it was definitely worth it.
Okay, out of 10, how many?
10.
I'll say 7 out of 10.
7.
And 4. I agree with 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah,
8.
I would do 8 out of 10.
8, yeah.
I think it was really, really good. I don't know what else is up for the Oscars right now, but I can't think of anything that's better than that would win. Especially Best Actor. If he doesn't win Best Actor.
Yeah. The only reason that I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say 9 or 10 out of 10 is just cinematically. This is just personal. I feel like cinematically they did everything they needed to do to tell that story, but I love movies that I feel like this movie had no sunlight in it. Like it was very cold and wintry and like lots of concrete, like very dark, like
but
kind of stale.
That matches the tone.
That's what I mean. I feel like it matched and it's what it needed, but like I just enjoy movies that have like some more pretty scenes, I guess. I shouldn't even say pretty scenes. Scenery, like from like landscapes.
I think you like more vibrant colors in cinematography and stuff, but that tells a different story. That's what, you couldn't have told this story with the bright, crazy colors.
Right. That's why I said I don't think that movie needed anything different. I just think that it's not necessarily like, like a 10 out of 10 personally. Like this is a movie that I would continue to watch over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, honestly,
and it's a bit sad, you know.
A lot of the movies like that are like I would rate top tier movies. I don't know that I would see them on a regular basis, like I would a comedy movie or something like that.
True. I mean, there's movies that are incredible that are like a lot to digest that you can't. It's not like a daily watch. Yeah. But
it was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, we want to talk about how you got started. And your whole endeavor of your life and creativity.
Yeah, you're like, just sum it up real quick. You're like, can you just sum that up into like a quick little elevator speech?
We got time.
Yeah, let's do it. It all started back in...
All right, so I'll give you a kickoff.
Okay.
What piqued your interest in creativity, like in the arts, in... painting, drawing, which eventually led to photography and all that? Like what started all that?
Yeah, so as a kid, I have always loved color and light and nature. I feel like I was born loving those things. I can't ever really remember a time that those things didn't bring me a lot of joy. I think I would credit my love of art in general to my grandmother, Abby. She was a painter, and I just remember she would paint landscapes from Cuba, and she was so talented. But I remember she would paint with oil paints, and those were like her expensive paints. And as a kid, she definitely encouraged me and my cousins. We lived next door to my cousins, myself, and my grandparents, and so we could just go out and like run down a dirt road and like be at my grandma's house. So we basically like all just grew up together, which was great. But she encouraged us to be free, I guess, to not follow the rules when it came to art, which was really, from like everything else in our life was like follow the rules, you know, like make good grades. But she was kind of one of the only people that was like, there's no rules here, which was fun. So she taught me how to blend colors and a lot about color theory, like learning, you know, this is the reason that things turn blue in the shade or warm in the sun. And
yeah. I think one thing from her that I see a lot in you is everything to her was beautiful.
Yeah.
You could have taken her to the most silly looking drawing.
Right.
And she's like, oh, so beautiful. I love it. And that's how you are with a lot of things.
And
like
I didn't even know that about her. When you're a kid, you don't recognize the way that, you know, your parents or your grandparents are because you're not an adult yet. But now that I'm an adult looking back, But she would give me like her cheap paints to play with. And then as I got older, I remember she would actually let me play with some of her oil paints, but it always felt like this magical special thing because I grew up with her being like, oh no, these aren't the ones we play with. And then when she started trusting me and knew that I wasn't going to just like squirt them all out on the ground. So I would say that was definitely the kickoff, the spark. And photography, it was an expression. And art was an expression. It was never like an option for a career. I used to want to be a pediatrician, actually, because everyone in my family is a doctor.
Yeah.
And I have so much respect for like the medical field, and I actually really love math and science and research. Like I mean, you laugh at me all the time. Every time we take a road trip, I spend the whole time just like researching random facts.
Why do cows?
Are there female longhorns? Fun fact, if you didn't know, there are. Longhorns are not all boys. Like longhorns are an actual.
90% of your research is the animals that we pass on road trips.
But I mean, I'm just so curious. Like I love exploring like the world, you know. I just love like looking things up and learning new things. And so I never really thought that art could be a career. I thought I was going to go into the medical field, and then I started having this kind of attraction, I guess, from paint into when you're from a small town, you're not really around a lot of art because unfortunately, like art got taken even away from our public schools when we were pretty young. I would say probably like when we were in junior high or high school. Yeah.
And for those that don't know, we're from the same small town.
Oh, yeah.
Tiny town, 3,000 people, one stoplight. And what used to be a grocery store
is now gone.
It's gone as of this year, but not very many opportunities for art and all of that.
Yeah, everything was just sports. Like that's the only, there was, you know, I mean, I guess the closest thing would be band, which you were in band, which is technically an art. But so I never, like, it was just around, it wasn't like a realistic career path. But yeah, I always loved it. I used to, I had braces and I would go to the orthodontist and like wait in the waiting room and they'd have like all the magazines just until it was your turn. And I'd go through the magazines and I remember just being so obsessed with like how bright and colorful the ads and the pages were. And sometimes it would just be like a dumb ad for like a skincare thing or something, but it attracted me even then. And then I started taking pictures with any cameras that I could find, like before I got my own first camera.
I remember the little point and shoot that you had.
And now we found it, and it's back in style.
It's not the same one. It's the one that we had when we got married.
Oh yeah, sure. But it's the same style. It's like the little digital. It was before the phones could take good photos, but we took that thing everywhere with us because it was like good quality pictures, and we had it with us like in our pocket all the time. Yeah. Anyways, I got my first camera when I was 15, I believe. I was maybe 16. Yeah. My first real camera, a Canon Rebel. Back before the Rebels,
you still have it.
I still have it. It couldn't shoot video. But I mean, I was in heaven. I thought like, okay, like
it took like 12 megapixel
Vogue
photos.
is going to come knocking on my door. Like I was like, I'm professional. And I think that blind confidence maybe was I mean, it was a good thing. It wasn't like an arrogance, obviously. It was just kind of like I felt unstoppable, and that's kind of like paved the way for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, I started shooting everything. And then I realized really quickly I love photographing people. Started taking pictures of all my friends, anyone who would let me. I would literally go through my own closet or go to like the cheapest stores I could find, like Forever 21, Rue 21. Like drive 30 minutes out to the nearest mall and find these like a scarf for like $4 or something, and would use that to dress my models, my friends. And I was like, all right, hear me out. I'm going to wrap this scarf around your neck and hold this net in front of the camera and shoot through it. And you're going to look like you're, some like runway model or something. Yeah. So that's how it all started. I loved it. All of my friends and I were also bored. We had nothing else to do. So it was like, why not? And then we all had the coolest MySpace photos.
Yeah. I remember
because of it.
Yeah. You even shot whenever I was in high school. I was in a band.
Oh, yeah.
And you did.
Well, and I was going to say you and your friends. I did band photos.
Yeah. You did some of our band photos.
Yep. And that's my early stages of learning Photoshop too, out of necessity, because like I would see these images they were from much better cameras that had high dynamic range. And back in the day, I didn't know that, but I was like, how come when they take these pictures, their skies have all this detail and stuff, and I couldn't get that. I had like this high contrast image that I was getting.
Would look at all these fashion photographers.
Yep. And I didn't understand it.
What's that show that you loved?
Oh my gosh, America's Next Top Model was I feel like that made me.
You watched that for the photography.
Oh my gosh, yeah, constant. They would play all the reruns, and it was my first introduction to fashion, I think. That I never even realized what a set looked like, or that there was a real person behind the camera with real models taking these photos. And then I would see the flashes and not even know what they were. But I would just Photoshop stuff to look like I had like a better camera. Like I would get like a pixelated Google image of a sky and try to lay it over an image and like cut it out, or like make a fake water reflection. And I didn't know Photoshop either. I remember when I learned what like a layer was in Photoshop.
You had Photoshop Elements.
Mind blown.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Before, it wasn't even Photoshop, it was Photoshop Elements.
Yeah.
It was like the easy, cheap version.
Yeah. But back then we also couldn't like YouTube tutorial stuff.
No.
Like I remember I bought the software on a CD and it came with like a manual, like a book. Like it came with like a little instruction.
Yeah, the book, not the person.
Yeah, so even that is crazy to think that's but I think America's Next Top Model made me realize that or the introduction into lighting, and then our awesome friends Mike and Susie.
I think that was a pivotal moment. It was
huge.
Your senior year in high school.
Yeah. Well, so I started shooting senior photos and realized, I can make money off of this for people older than me, like people your age. And I mean, people were paying me sometimes like $25, $50 for like a photo shoot or something. And then I still wasn't quite, I knew I wasn't like outputting what I wanted, like the vision that was in my head. And then whenever Tri-Coast with Mike and Susie did my senior photos and they were using Flash, that was another pivotal moment that I was like, they know something I don't know. Yeah. And they kind of took me under their wing, both of us, and let me kind of shadow them. I was so obsessed. I was like, can I just be here for every shoot that y'all ever do and not get paid? Like, I'll carry stuff, I'll do whatever, just to just kind of be like a little... I remember just being like so nervous even to hold a light stand for them. And
even for me, like I was wanting to still do filmmaking back then. And of course it didn't exist anywhere in there, but seeing Mike and Susie and all of them, like just with lights on a set, even though it was photography and it was so close to home,
magic.
It felt huge. And
I mean, it was magical to us because like we didn't know that people could make money doing something that we thought was almost this like fantasy, it felt like, to me, it's like, okay, jobs are teacher, lawyer, doctor, dentist, vet, or chemical plant.
Chemical plant, yeah, big one, chemical plant.
Yeah, and it was just crazy to think that you're telling me that like people get to do this and they get paid for it. Like that was crazy. So yeah, I owe a lot to them in my early career for letting an annoying little kid just follow them around.
Yeah.
And I tried to help where I could, but it was definitely just they let me just like watch, you know. And I knew so little that it was like down to, I was like, how are y'all making this flash fire at the same time that you take the photo?
Do you remember the first time when I remember me and you both went over to their house, they had their studio set up, and they handed you the camera?
Oh, I panicked. I'll never forget that. Yeah. I panicked. I handed it back. I was like, I can't hold this. You don't understand.
It's too expensive.
Yeah, like you don't know who I am. Like I felt unworthy to even hold it. And I think Mike was probably like, shut up, girl. Like, hold this stupid camera and push this button. Like, they were literally, I mean, everything obviously was all set up, but they were like, just push the button. And I think that it kind of let me realize, like, okay, you know, maybe there's more here, and you can't be afraid of it. You know, you have to, like, just dive in to the deep end. Yeah. So, yeah, then my love of lighting, I already loved lighting from my grandmother way back in the day. So combining it with, I remember as a kid, I would stare. I have pretty bad eyesight. So I would like sit under the Christmas tree and stare up at the Christmas lights, and they would be like the out of focus, like bokeh, just like the little sparkling lights. And then anything, I mean, I would like, you know, put my eye into I used to play with these, wrapping paper tubes and I would like look through it and like see like the fisheye, and then just like pretend. Even then I didn't even know what I was doing, but pretending, you know, that I was like viewing this scene, this tree or this sunset or whatever.
You loved lighting before you even knew what lighting was.
Yeah.
You just the images that inspired you, that you looked at all the time. The thing you loved about them was how they were lit. Yeah.
Another huge inspiration, Alex Lim.
Yeah.
Man, he like changed he doesn't even know. I've never met him. He doesn't even know. And he changed my life. Like the America's Next Top Model world kind of led into early internet stages of me. I didn't even know what I was Google searching, like fashion photography or high definition. I would search like high definition photography. And then, I found a video. It was like a BTS video of this random photographer named Alex Lim. And he was shooting... I don't remember where. It was like in Seattle, maybe, or it was we found it the other day. I don't remember where it was, but it was these models, and they were in beautiful, they were styled beautifully, like beautiful wardrobe. And he was out there with the flash, and I would see the flash go off, and I'm like, what is it doing? Or I thought they were timing it, you know. How are they like snapping the shutter and firing the flash at the same time?
I remember I would see it and I would be like, there's no way
that they're timing it.
Well, that tiny puff of light is what's causing all that light. I was just like, there's no way. Sure enough. And
whenever I realized what you can do when you learn how to control lighting, I became obsessed. Like it was a problem. Yeah. I couldn't think about anything else. Yeah. Everything I looked at was like centered around lighting. Even constant lights, and learning like the rules of like how light can tell a story, and how you move it or what you do to it and how you shape it can change like the mood or the tone of what you're doing. Yeah. Anyway, so somehow in there I convinced my parents to let me go to school for photography. Not convinced. They hesitantly were like, well, I guess we're not going to talk her out of it. Yeah. And I went to U of H and did the digital media program there. I was the last class to graduate with the film, like actual film, not film movie, film photography program. I learned the basics of composition, exposure, things that everyone should learn first. And it was a beautiful thing. I got to take my time because I was learning all on black and white film. I was having to shoot, develop my rolls, and print with enlargers, all from start to finish from scratch.
Yeah, all from scratch. Yeah. I think the coolest thing with that is it made you understand why there's all these tools in Photoshop and what they actually mean and how they affect the image in that sense. And like the old,
it made me slow down.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you're shooting digitally, you don't have to think about all that. And even shooting, when you're learning, you're usually shooting in like auto or like aperture priority or something. So being like, no, you have to shoot in manual, and you have to know what every adjustment to all your variables is going to do to your image. And then, when I learned that like the greats that came before us that were shooting on film, that they were dodging and burning with an enlarger in their prints. I was like, I remember when my professor was like saying dodging and burning, I'm like, why is he talking about Photoshop? And I was like, oh, like the things I use in Photoshop, this is where they came from. Like even the icon, like the little dodge and burn icon, like the little hand and the little thing that looks like a magnifying glass, those are tools that are from film.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, that was like such a cool, it like makes you have a whole new respect for, because like when you're seeing your image magically, it is magic, appear under this enlarger with your negative, and then there's an area that you're like, oh, the sky is too bright or this area is too dark or whatever, and then you have your little tools and you can let more light hit an area or less light hit an area as you're printing, and then you put it through the chemical bath and it comes out, and sometimes, most of the time, it's trash and you're like, well, start back over again. But when you get it exactly how you want it, I mean, it's like there's no greater feeling. I would love to have a dark room again.
Yeah. What do you think the best part about going to school for photography is? Because so many people are like, especially now, people don't think they need to go to college, and you don't necessarily.
Yeah.
But since you did, what was like the benefit? Like, what do you think like served you the best?
It's so weird because I didn't need my degree. I still don't. Like, none of my jobs ever have really said, show me your credentials for this, like your degree for this job. They've been like, show me your portfolio. And so a lot of people say like, it's such a waste, which I do understand. No, I didn't need to, go to college and have student loans. Yay. But I would not ever change that experience because, like I said, it forced me to be able to, from a technical aspect to learning on film, I will never ever take that for granted, because to this day, I have this like deeper respect and knowledge for the art of photography, and I can like close my eyes and expose and shoot like with hands tied behind my back. Like, I'm saying, I don't mean that in like a arrogant way. I'm saying I feel so comfortable and confident that in any lighting scenario, like I can make a good image.
Yeah.
With nothing, like with any limitation. And I think having that foundation so strong is what has gotten me out of so many like sticky situations like in my career.
I think
I also met so many incredible people that taught me how to take criticism well.
That's what I was going to say is watching you go through that program, all the technical stuff you could have learned on YouTube.
Yeah.
But how that class taught you to think artistically and take criticism, and to understand that taking a pretty image isn't always art, and it's not always what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You're trying to capture a story and capture emotion. That is what I feel like taught you so much that you then apply to the technical skills. Yeah.
I mean, I think that I'm a very empathetic, I'm a big feeler, and I love people and I love connection. And because of that, I take things very personal because I'm just very passionate. And I think that whenever I would have been like eaten alive by the wolves if I didn't go through that like toughening up stage, I guess. The first 2 years, I did not go down without a fight though, kicking and screaming the whole way with my professors. Like, because I see now they were trying to, I needed it. They were trying to show me that an image just looking good isn't enough, and teach me how to be vulnerable and to like is art really art if it doesn't make someone feel something, you know? And I mean, even just sitting through, man, those critiques,
And I think
those are rough.
A lot of people don't realize is feeling something doesn't necessarily mean
Doesn't
feeling
have to be good.
Good.
Right.
It can be uncomfortable. It can
And
be,
I had to learn that
Yeah.
because I didn't have any history of, I mean, having to I felt like I was just like a fish out of water, like in a big city surrounded by all different types of cultures and people that thought differently than me and different belief systems and all kinds of stuff that I was like, whoa, like this world is so much bigger than what I've seen, you know, the first like 18 years of life. And critiques were, so I went through a program called Block, and like the whole second 2 years of school, basically we would have an assignment, and they were like, the topics would be whatever, crazy things. We would do all this work. We would develop them in the dark room, get these images. We would literally pin them to the whole class, pin them to a wall, and for 8 hours a day, 8 hours, the whole class would rip your work apart.
That's crazy.
Like, I'm not exaggerating. And I mean, everyone would just be so anxious for when it was their turn, you know, because no one held back. I don't mean in a rude way. No one was like dogging on anybody's technical skills or anything. It was just like, it was unfiltered.
Didn't you say that like you your first one, you tried to not critique someone? You're just like, oh, I like it.
Yeah,
and
only give positive feedback.
Yeah,
they wouldn't let you.
Yeah,
No.
they're like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, the professors were like, you ain't getting off that easy.
Yeah.
And I mean, for someone that hates like that uncomfortable, it helped me even to give feedback to people too. I mean, in a respectful way. But yeah, and like I was in there with people who were not afraid to hold back, and like hearing, I mean, I cried a few times, and I'm not even like a crier. Like there were times that people would be like hurt, but it was so necessary. It gave me thicker skin, and it taught me how to see things from a more unbiased perspective and how to recognize it's helpful with client work too, not to tie yourself so personally. It depends on like what the project is for, but just to like respect that if someone else gets something out of it, they deserve an opinion too. And that the whole world's going to have an opinion about your work if you're putting work out there. Mm-hmm. So that was huge. Like, it was not fun, but it was very, it was a huge growth journey for me. I have a lot. I mean, I did have a couple of professors that not a lot of the people in my class liked commercial photography, and they liked more of the fine art stuff. And I had a huge respect for fine art photography too, but I loved things that look polished and commercial, and I loved lighting, and a lot of times I got kind of like dogged on for that because they were like, would never end up, you know, like in a fine art museum, and I'm like, I don't want it to.
But what's cool is that now you can take what you learned in fine art and you can apply it to commercial and put more meaning behind just a pretty image. So
right.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do think that now I see a lot of that in like my personal work, and it was like subconsciously, you know, kind of getting weaved in there over the years. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was a crazy experience for me, like a little small town kid that had literally never taken one art class ever. And then I got thrown into like my basics were like, I had to take like a metal etching course, and then like a charcoal drawing class that we had to like draw nude live models like every day, like to learn like the human form and learn perspective and learn all this stuff. And I learned so much, but like it was just shocking for me to go from seeing nothing, like the same, you know, however many square miles to that. Yeah. But I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after college was when we started ambient.
Well, in college, really.
Yeah, that's true. We were in college because I was still doing like videography at that point and doing my like film school stuff.
I worked all through high school and all through college, and even that was like, I'm glad that I started getting real life experience simultaneously while these things were happening.
Shout out the Meekers.
Yeah. My first real like hired photography. Well, we were doing, I guess it was technically contracting sessions, like we were shooting weddings and stuff like that, but I guess my first like paycheck type of job was with the Meekers. I had an entrepreneurship class with Amanda Meeker, and we just happened to sit next to each other it was destiny. And it was like one of those big classes with like the stadium seating. Yeah, and we actually had to work on a group project in the semester, and we sat together, and I didn't even know her. We just like sat in the same vicinity, and we got like paired together. And then I don't remember what brought it up. It was something about like her talking about, you know, her schedule or her family or something. And she was like, oh, you know, I told her I was a photography student. She was like, we're looking for an editor. And at the time I was like, people hire for that? I was like, that's so cool. Yeah. So I applied, and, I actually was applying for a job at Buffalo Wild Wings at the time.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
As a server.
Yeah. I remember.
Because another friend of mine was like, you can get great tips at Buffalo.
Man, could you imagine how different your life would be?
Yeah, because that changed like the whole direction.
Because like, I know for the, like, just how Mike and Susie were as mentors to us, the next, I guess, step of mentors were the Meekers, and how we've never seen anyone run a portrait business like them. Yeah,
for that many years, especially, yeah.
And
well, I actually got the job at Buffalo. Like, I went in for the interview, and I think I came back either for a second interview or whatever, and they offered it to me. And I was like, can I get back with you? And I was in the Buffalo Wild Wings parking lot, walking from the building to my car, my little Mazda. And Amanda called me and was like, my dad wants you to start. Like, because I think I had sent them my work or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So that was crazy. It was in Sugar Land, which ironically is where we live now.
Now we live there. Yep.
Yeah, and I was living on campus and driving. I mean, it wasn't that far of a drive, like 30 minutes from campus to Sugar Land. I think it was 3 times a week, but for 3 years, almost 3, like 2.5 years, I photoshopped I retouched every session that came through the Meeker Studios, and I learned so much during that. I mean, I was like removing acne and taking boogers out of babies' noses, and it was like a family portrait business.
They shot a lot of weddings too.
Weddings, yeah.
Weddings, families.
And I was just their retoucher.
Seniors,
that's all I did. Sat at a computer retouching.
And that's how you became fast.
Yeah, that made me way better.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where I like tuned in my confidence and my speed, but also just like what I was capable of doing. Because there would be times that there'd be like, you know, a light stand in the background or something that they're like, can you know how to take this out? And I'd always be like, sure.
One thing about you, no, I don't know is never in your vocabulary.
I mean, there would be times that by this time I could YouTube things, but I was like, I will figure it out. And I just got really good at just like always figuring it out, you know? But seeing how they operated and ran a business and getting to see the inside of, you know, like the ins and outs of them, like their team meetings and their finances and their scheduling. I mean, it was incredible. And then we just became friends with them and their family over the years because we just like respected everything they were doing.
Yeah.
Mark's incredible, and he always gave us like the best advice. I feel like
they're an amazing family.
Yeah,
and it's cool because they're a husband and wife team. Christine, she's the shooter, the main shooter, and she did all the photography. Mark ran the business side of things.
Yep.
Amanda, who you met in class, she would help them shoot sometimes. She would help them out. She kind of just did everything.
Also did all the marketing. Yeah.
And then I think
now Sam shoots all of they opened a wedding business or a wedding venue company. And their other daughter, Sam, like shoots all their weddings.
Yeah, but at the time she was pretty young, so I don't.
Yeah.
She might have helped out.
She was still in school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Mitchell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a whole family business thing. It was cool seeing them operate as a family.
Yeah.
And do it so well.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for that family, and I met a lot of amazing people that I got to work with, like with them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also Mark was always very supportive of us wanting to open our own business, and anytime we had questions, he was always like an open book for us. And then he also was flexible with my schedule because I was technically part-time. I would work like 3 or 4 days a week, but when I wasn't there at the studio retouching, we were shooting for like the early stages of our business. We were shooting weddings, families, high school seniors on our own, you know, which is really, it was cool to have that understanding and flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. And then became a time where we were a little too busy for both of us to have outside jobs because I worked also. And we were like, you know what? Let's
jump
it. Yeah.
Jump off the cliff. Yeah, that was the first big scary jump that I'm really proud of ourselves for, because we were also getting married at the time. So we got married, we both quit our jobs, and then like went straight full-time business owners.
Yeah.
That was a crazy.
How old were we then?
I was 21, I think.
Yeah, I was 23. Yeah.
Babies. Yeah.
We'll quit jobs.
I mean, like
it wasn't like
our
a career.
paycheck jobs.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a career,
Yeah.
but it was like
to be fully like business owners.
Yeah. And
we got our first little studio space.
In downtown Houston.
It was like a sublease, kind of. Yeah.
And we called it Ambient Studios because we always thought that we always liked the idea of like when you walk into a room, you want to be the ambient light in the room. You don't want to be all the attention's on me. Some people want that, but
and that ambient lighting is the most beautiful type of lighting, you know, like the existing soft light that bounces around the walls, like in a coffee shop and stuff like that. Like that's beautiful, beautiful light. So then let's see, we did ambient for a long time. It kind of grew and changed with us, but we did it full time for years. And then I recognized that I wanted to start doing, like, branching into more commercial.
Yeah. What's cool about ambient, though, is, like, that was another time where we got really, I don't want to say we got really good. We got really, like, honed in on how to output a lot of work really fast because we got so busy.
Yeah.
So we really learned how to like develop a system, how to be super efficient with time because
it was just us two. We didn't want to hire employees.
Yeah, and we primarily photographed high school seniors, and there would come times like especially right before graduation where we'd have 3 or 4 seniors in a day, so we'd have to
and sales sessions.
Yeah,
because we were also selling. We would have pre-consultations with every client.
Yeah.
We would do the shoot itself and then a sales session that they'd come in afterwards to review all of their images and then make purchases like graduation invitations or albums or digital files.
Yeah, prints.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that was like probably the most formidable time in our life that we just...
I will give all of the reason that I am... People lately have been telling me, like, it's so weird that you're a type A creative. I've been hearing that a lot lately, and I think I credit all that to ambient because we had no choice. Like, we had to be on it. Like, we just couldn't drop the ball because there was no one to fall back on.
Yeah,
you
just
know?
me and you.
Yeah,
and
so it was like our organization level was like 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And, like, even, like, the shooting, retouching... I mean, I was even designing all the albums and invitations, so I was technically like graphic designing. I don't claim to be a graphic designer, but even that crazy that we were getting everything ready for print, but then also selling and also scheduling everything. Like every time that someone would like send an email or call to book, like it was just like when you zoom out, it's crazy that's. I just listed out maybe like 5 or 6 people's jobs, and it was just us doing all of it.
Yeah, we did everything. It was crazy. It was fun though.
It was really fun.
I remember like those days we shot a lot in Galveston, which is the beach town close to us. Well, I say close, it's like an hour away from where we lived at the time. And my favorite place, probably yours too, to shoot anywhere.
By far. I'm actually planning a shoot out there now.
Yeah.
Because I love like the character in the city.
Which another shout out to Mike and Susie because the first time we ever saw it photographed was on your senior session that they did.
Yeah, I took my senior photos there and our engagement session.
Yep. Yep. So it was fun though. We would go out to Galveston and have like awesome sunset shoots on the beach and come home and just be like, those are some of the best images we ever took.
We'd be like on a high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I will say that it definitely we got to the point that we were like, okay, it's a good problem, but we got too busy. We were like, we can't keep doing this just us. So do we want to go all in with this business, be business owners, hire people? And I was at a point that I was kind of recognizing I was doing so much of like office stuff You'll hear me say this many times, I guess, in my career. But I was
emails, invoicing,
yeah,
booking
even
clients.
just edits and sales sessions and all that stuff that I was like, I just don't really know if as this grows, it's going to be more of that. And not really wanting the weight of responsibility of having to deal with like payroll and employees and the stress of like potentially letting someone down during slow seasons and stuff like that. So yeah, we also had never lived outside of the Houston area. And we were like, we're young, we don't have kids, let's go somewhere. And we moved to Austin.
Yeah, moved to Austin for a couple of years, and that's where we decided
to do commercial
work.
Yeah,
that's kind of where we're at now.
Not in Austin.
No, we're not in Austin, but in our career.
Yeah,
that like set us
up
for
Austin was really, really great for me too, because I did a lot of like growing up and soul searching during that time. Mm-hmm. And it's also when we were there, we made a lot of really great friends. We were there about 2 years, and what brought us back to Sugarland was you and Christian connecting through Alphalete. Mm-hmm. And even that, it was kind of a crazy,
yeah.
I don't want to say coincidence by any means, but I didn't even know anything about that world. And in passing, you were kind of just like,
hey, my wife takes photos.
Yeah, like casually. And it ended up being like an open door to a very long, incredible journey that I never saw coming, and career growth, that I never saw coming. Just, I became everything in my life that I've ever been afraid of, I try to just run at. And I think Alphalete was no different, because it's kind of like when my gut is like, can you really handle this? Or are you qualified for this or whatever? If you kind of just like we talked about the other day about rhino bulldozing, like just bulldoze through it. And I think that so far it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
That mindset.
Yeah. So what are your ambitions for the future? What's the next journey? Because now, I don't know.
Talking through all that is crazy, because it's like, I feel like in 10 years from now, I'm going to remember this conversation and be like, I had no idea.
Well, luckily we're recording it.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to go back and look at
that's the beautiful thing about not being able to see into the future. That's definitely
but this
the
is
exciting part.
Yeah. This is why I wanted to start this podcast and to record it, so that all of our stories and everything we have can be on record, and we can go back and watch them and everything. But it's cool seeing our life unfold in chapters like that. Mm-hmm. And it where
you can see these pivotal, like a bookend, and then not a bookend, a chapter end, and then like the next chapter starting. Yeah. We're definitely in one of those transitions right now. Yeah. So I just think that I have picked up a lot of like tools and skills along the way, and I kind of feel like you have this tool belt, and you're kind of just, as you go, just like picking up more things to add to your tool belt as you go. Yeah. Like I only started with a hammer, and now I've got like 50 tools.
Now you got a saw.
Yeah. I got a screwdriver and a hammer and a tape measure. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to take everything that I've learned so far and then just keep applying it. My goal right now is to align, like I said earlier, like not to let fear get the best of me, and just kind of shoot. I want to shoot stuff that just makes my heart like race, And
what's cool is like through all the experiences that you've had and all the things that you've learned, you've realized that you don't only have to be a photographer now. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many different options.
That's still scary for me to but to like say that out loud, because my whole life I've labeled myself, not that that's bad, but like that's my title. Like I'm a photographer, like Kirby, the photographer. And I think that it wasn't until maybe the last like 2 or 3 years that I started actually saying like, oh, you're also a producer or creative director or an editor, or there's so many other elements that I've been doing for a long time, but just never called it that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's cool because all those different things, I mean, the critiques that you've gotten in in photo school, mm-hmm. I guess.
Technically it was film.
Yeah.
Film photography.
But like the critiques that you got and had to give to the organization that you learned at Alpha Elite to your technical skills that you learned running a business, all that it's helpful even in the films that we do together because.
Well, like wrangling a group.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I'm really confident in now that before, that wasn't a tool that was in my tool belt before. I say wrangling, I mean organizing.
Yeah.
Like organizing and making sure, over communicating, making sure everyone's on the same page.
Getting things done and just in general.
Executing.
Yeah.
That's such a...
But like also with like the creative vision and the creative eye, because there's a lot of people that can do that, but they don't understand like, well, why do you need to spend this much on that specific thing? It's like, oh, it's gonna make the shot that much better. You're like, oh yeah, it will.
And I've also learned like having a vision and executing, it's great to do both simultaneously, because if someone's only executing and they can't see the vision, there's a huge roadblock, because it's like you have to just trust whoever you're hiring is going to see the vision, because you're like, I don't see it, And so I think trust, you have to work with people that you mesh with and that you trust, but it's definitely a huge, it's very necessary for someone to be able to, not that you have to know what the final product's going to look like, but to like see the vision, like as you're executing.
Yeah. And I feel like you're really good at that. Like you can, there's so many times that you will have a client or something like that, and they're like, I don't get it. You're like, just trust me.
I try not to say that.
Yeah. You don't ever say this, but like,
I used to say that, but I try not to say that because I don't ever want that to come across as like, oh, you don't need to know what's going on. You need to just trust me, because it is a creator's job to communicate to the client what they're going to get out of it. And I think that there's a lot to be said there. Because I've heard people do that before, and I'm like, you still got to like walk them through it,
Yeah.
But at the same time, my heart, I feel like if I'm confident, if I feel good about a project and my heart's in it, that energy is very contagious. I think that like the whole room picks up on, everyone's energy is contagious, but the whole room picks up on like, oh, like these people over here, they're like, they know, I don't want to say confident. They're like, they have a vision and they're doing it. Like,
yeah, people
they're not wandering around like wondering like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, people want to feel safe. They're like, in the sense of
like,
okay,
they're decisive or they're whatever. Yeah. And that whenever like when there's people in the room that are executing in that way, the whole room feels like at peace, because the whole room is kind of like, oh, I don't have to worry, like someone knows what they're doing. So I think there's an art to at least bringing peace to people's mind, like you can be terrified on the inside, but like don't show that you're terrified outwardly. I mean, you can talk about it later. Like you can talk about how terrified you were after the fact.
Yeah.
But in the moment, like tuck that away and just...
If you don't know what you're doing, pretend like you do.
Yeah. I talked about that I made a reel on Instagram about like the scariest shoot ever, my underwater shoot.
Oh, yeah.
And I talked about like being a professional at pretending to know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because I'm never not scared. I'm never not scared on a shoot. But it's like, I know what I want. And I'm just also, I think I just know I'm so stubborn. I'm not going to let it go.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get it. We're going to get the shot. Even if I'm like shaking in my boots, Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited about this next chapter for sure. Because I already feel just a sense of peace, I guess, about just trusting. Every jump, it's like you're just jumping off the next cliff, like it's like you just keep jumping and you just don't know what's going to be on the other side, and it never gets any easier. But that's kind of just like, I'm so grateful that's the life we get to live.
Yeah, me too. It's a crazy ride.
Yeah.
We have some awesome things planned coming up too, so that helps too.
Yeah.
To know.
Yeah. I have some goals like for the year. I mean, I think that I want to be on a very big set. I say be on. I mean, like, I want to be like directing a very big set. Shooting / art directing. Like a big budget set. I want to see what I can do, I think, with having the responsibility of like a lot of money on the line. It's like I said earlier, like just running towards the things that are scary, because the more money that's on the line, the bigger
the risk.
Yeah. But I just kind of want to like put myself in that situation and also open the doors for that to continue growing, because I would like, even like the set design aspect of it, I love that too. Like I love whenever we watch the making of the
A Wicked.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was so
like
good.
any studio, not even studio, any movie making of where they're like showing the art direction, set design, I'm just like in awe.
I remember when we went to tour the Warner Brothers Studios in Los Angeles, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that tree right there, look closely."
Yeah.
And it was all hand
sewn leaves. The leaves are fake.
In the tree. And you were like,
they change it based on the seasons.
I was like, I want to do that so bad.
I was like, you're telling me someone gets paid to sew on like orange leaves in the fall on this tree? Like, can I be that person? I remember saying like, how do you get hired to be the person that like paints these sidewalks? Like, cause I love that too. I mean, all of it is connected. But I think the older I get, the more I recognize, like, you don't have to put yourself in a box. You don't have to only be one thing. And just because it's not conventional doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, I know we talk about Robert Rodriguez all the time because we look up to him a lot. And I know he's a filmmaker, not a photographer, but his view on making work is just, it's not conventional. He's like, I'm making my own rules.
Yep.
Like, I'm gonna shoot and direct and cut my own stuff and write the music for it, and no one can tell me anything else. And I'm like, heck yeah. Like, why play by the rules just because like this is the norm, or this is what everyone else wants to do? Like, if I want to spend 6 months building a set for my own photo shoot and sewing leaves on a tree, like, no one says I can't do that, you know?
Yep. You got to take charge and do it how you see, because I've always thought that's funny how it's like, this is just how everyone's done it, so we're going to keep doing it like that. It's like, no, this is not, especially now where the access to creating bigger budget things is so accessible that it's like, you don't need someone for film's sake. You don't need to have someone write the score, shoot it, direct it, edit it. You can do all of that in your room on a computer now.
I will say I respect specialties.
Yeah.
I will say that if there's someone that's better than you at something that you're like, I can't get the vision I want without this person's expertise, hire the person.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I more so mean like, if I have fun doing something and it's a form of expression, then it's like I want to include that in the art making process, instead of being like, I'm not allowed to do that because I'm just a photographer.
Yeah. Or I mean, like, if you're just budget, or you just
working with limitations.
Yeah, if you're not around people that you know of that can do all those things, like, it's accessible now, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's huge. A huge part of the learning process too is like balancing what do I have fun doing that I do really well versus like what can someone. Just respecting people's art form, you know, like what can someone do better than me? And that's fun too. Collaboration is really fun. Bringing in people that, which I learned a lot about during college too. Bringing in people that do have a different opinion. I mean, we do that for each other all the time. Sometimes it's like more fun than others. I mean, technically we collaborate on every project together, but like, it's interesting to get a different perspective. It's interesting for the other perspective to come from your spouse, I should say.
That should be a future episode. How to work with your spouse. We've got some tricks.
I don't know that we're the pros though.
No, but we got some. I feel like we have some good tricks.
Yeah.
That
we've definitely over the years learned a system that works really well. It doesn't mean that there aren't times that we still like disagree, but it's interesting whenever like there's times that we'll ask each other for an outside perspective, but then whenever like it's delivered, you're like, that's not what I wanted you to say. But it's good. It's good because like I always just say zoom out all the time. Like, zoom out and remember that your reality is not the only reality. I mean, you could say that about life, not just art. You know, that how you're seeing the world can look so different than how your neighbor is seeing the world, you know? And I think that people forget that. Like everyone, I mean, obviously we're always just in our own head, but it's like we get so like passionate about this, like it has to be this way. And it's like, just because this is your opinion doesn't mean someone else can't bring something that maybe it'll make it better, you know? So always being open-minded, I think, is a huge part of collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got your story on camera.
Yeah.
Or as we used to say back in the day, got it on tape.
It's locked and loaded.
Yeah. So.
No, it was fun. It's fun to reminisce. It's fun to, like, you know, walk through, to go down memory lane, you know?
All the different chapters and everything and all that we've been through. It's been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this was fun. I am really enjoying these.
I know, me too.
It's
and
cool.
Next time we get to talk about your journey.
My journey.
Yeah.
It's funny because like
they cross, our journeys cross.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, and we know them, so it's funny.
But there's still things that like when I'm talking through things, it's exciting whenever you're like, I forgot about that, or I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was saying that the other day, that it's weird that you can basically like grow up with someone and there's still things about them you're like, I never knew that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also, you could tell your story 30 times and it's never going to come out the same way because you remember, there's different snippets that you remember, you know? So I'm really excited to hear you like talk through yours, because the mindset you're in right now is different than it was like a year ago, you know?
What's weird is I feel like in both of our stories, I don't know, there's times in life where you're like, why did that happen to me? Or why did I go through this? And I'm not saying that this happens all the time, but I'm seeing things in our life now that I'm like, oh, that's why we went through that back then.
Yeah.
So it's cool to like align all those crazy things to be like, wow.
Yeah.
Like
things that can be super frustrating in the moment or feel pointless or a waste of time. But then, I mean, sometimes you see the point a month later, and sometimes it takes like 10 years for the light bulb to go off and be like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, next time we'll talk about me and my story.
It's fun. It's fun.
It is fun. It's cool. I'm excited to just have this out there, and then also to, like I said on the last episode, to bring people on here to get their story and little nuggets of advice. Hopefully
we can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
Always. Like if we're still learning from each other and we feel like we know everything about each other, it's crazy to get to do this with friends or people that are in our, you know, industry. Because it's like, there's friends that I've known for years, and there's things that they say that I'm like, oh, I've never, you know, looked at something that way. So that's always really inspiring and motivating to take like you said, little snippets from other people's experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. But yeah. Well, thank you for watching this episode 2 of the Storyboard podcast. Oh yeah. If you made it this far and you watched it.
Let me pick one.
Okay.
The little whale.
Comment.
The whale emoji.
So if you made it this far, comment the little whale emoji.
He's cute. Yeah.
In the comments. And let us know what you think of this episode and any topics that you want us to cover in the future. We're new at this and we're getting the hang of it.
New as in this was episode 2.
Episode 2. So we're excited to bring out more and just keep talking, keep yapping. Maybe we should get some queso.
Oh.
Queso and yap.
No, it needs to be late night lattes though.
Yeah, we will. We'll go to Kohi and have Nick make us up some lattes.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yaps over coffee. I'm trying to think of a phrase. No, late night lattes has the best ring to it.
Late night latte. What was it? It was I don't know. I'll think of it. Say it next one. But yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next episode.